And oh my goodness, right off the gate, we got a huge super here. We're going to have to get to those supers before we say hello to anybody else in here. But let's get these spinning wheels going, 1 and 2. Awesome. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. It is Tuesday night. It's time for an episode of Legitimately Building the Broncos here with a Mile High Huddle roundtable. I am Nick Kendell, and joined by today all my good friends in here. Carl Dumler. Carl, it's always good to see you here on Tuesday nights. We also got our guys at the Dove Valley Deep Divers, Erick Trickel and Lance Sanderson, and Ron White, NFL, out here, the orange and blue view, killing it here. We're taking us up in the middle here. So welcome in, everybody. This is going to be the Mile High Huddle roundtable with us. Scott is running the background today, so he's going to keep us on point on our ones and twos, and hope everyone doing well. First, I'm going to kick out Eric. How you doing? How are things going?
I'm doing good. I mean, I'm excited that the draft's almost here. Just tweeted out this morning. In total, Mile High Huddle we will have published 417 reports on different players, over 125 articles this year. Super excited for that. And that's going back to February 15th. So super excited for that. Super excited for the draft and for the live shows we're going to be doing as we do every year.
Yeah, I'm excited for like the 7th round when we're delirious and our voices are scratched up. And then, heck, you know what? I'm having so much fun. Let's do it again. But Ron, good to have you in here, Ron. This is your first Mile High Huddle roundtable. Hopefully not too chaotic for you. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Excited for the draft.
Of course.
Seeing how the Broncos play these 5 picks that they have. Hopefully we land some good players. And kind of like Eric, I'm excited for the content as we go live and the recap as well. So everything's going well.
Well, good. Nice to have Ron in here. Lance, how you doing? Man, Eric and I are really gonna have to put up a game. It's Ron too. Maybe the facial hair game. You and Carl are killing it with the goatee there. How you doing, Lance?
Hanging in there, man. It's been a long process. Obviously, like Eric said, 417 articles we've done. I did right at 100 players that I wrote up for the website. So Eric's really the one that carried the weight there. But I did drop my my big board and positional rankings on my Twitter account and on Facebook today. Find those at Lance_MHH if you guys are interested. And please let me know how I did. And if you guys got any feedback, I'm obviously here for the conversation. It's good to be here.
Yeah, again. Shout out to you guys with all that work you've done covering the draft. I know it's a lot of work, a lot of tape. It's not even only the hours writing it, but watching the players as well. It's unbelievable the amount of work. So make sure you guys check that out. And Carl, man, this is our 6th draft together. We're dating back to the Garrett Bowles draft. I think was our first one, 2017. Does that put us at 6? All I know is they all start to run together.
Yeah, they definitely do. I definitely remember the Garrett Bowles will always be that first pick of ours. Mm-hmm. And I remember you wrote an article in like February saying, "Hey, this Garrett Bowles guy, I want to check him out." And then all of a sudden he becomes a Denver Bronco. Oh, it was Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. But anyway, no, it's good to be back for another roundtable. And this is probably one of my favorite podcasts that we do all year long. Of just getting this chance to work together and figure out, kind of do a war room setup of getting to discuss these players. So, yeah, excited to see what we got here tonight.
And first off, kicking us off, $9.99 super, Flazify coming in here, Flazify, if you will, $9.99. Thank you so much over on YouTube, saying thanks for all the work MHH crew does for the draft. Would love to see a center fall. If not, I think defensive line and tight end would be a good move. Flazify, I mean, with the Broncos not picking until pick 67 as it currently stands, and Lord knows what happens with the picks leading up to it, center would be great, but defensive line, tight end would be interesting as well. Lance, if there's one more position that you would be saying, look on the lookout here for, not defensive line, not tight end, not center, what would it be for you?
It's got to be the cornerback position, man. I mean, I liked what Damari Mathis showed this last season, but they got to get better on the boundary. They got to get some better depth as well. Michael Ojemudia is not around anymore. Saying Bassi has always struggled playing in the slides. Like you always post in our group chat, like that sloth meme where he's trying to run as fast as he can. He just can't keep up over the middle of the field. So cornerback is a huge concern for me, as a safety as well. I like this safety class a little bit more than most people do. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got our guy, David Meckelrath, Papa Bear, coming in, $5, kicking us off, killing it. You both on the YouTube side of things. And good evening, Broncos country. Nick, Carl, Chad, Zach, Dylan, Deacon, Scott. Center would be awesome. So we got 2 for center now. Hashtag Buckham 3 times, MHH for life, and Denver Broncos for life. Thank you so much, David. We appreciate you. We got the boss coming in here. Chad Jensen, $20, flashing orange, saying the MHH draft brain trust in the hizzy. Thank you so much, Chad. Appreciate you. Miss you. Running. I'm trying to do my best Chad impersonation here, keeping order, keeping calm. It's a little bit harder sometimes. And we got Troy Boer coming in here with a very cute picture of a golden retriever. So whatever Troy, he doesn't have to drop a $9.99. We're going to get to it anyway. But $99.99. Thank you so much, Troy says. I usually listen to the recordings, but today I can watch live, so I am paying for months of free podcasts. Well, God bless you for that, Troy. Really appreciate that. Seriously, that's so helpful.
Thanks, Troy.
Goes beyond. Thank you from all of us. Thank you for providing thoughtful, unique content instead of recycled views of others, and for being nice. What are the odds we trade a player during the draft? Eric, I'm going to kick this one to you. What do you think about trading a player? The Broncos trading away a player in the draft. Where would you put the odds at from a percentage?
I think they'll 100% trade a player for it. It may not be Judy, it may not be Cortland Sutton, it may be somebody else, but I do think that somebody gets moved for just maybe like a low-level depth chart guy for like a 6th or 7th round pick, something like that. I do think that happens at least once in this draft.
Wow. Ron, are there any players that specifically you'd be interested in potentially moving for some draft capital? It could be Judy, it could be Sutton. Is there any specific players like, if the Broncos moved on from him and got some capital, that'd be okay with me?
Yeah. So Sutton, definitely
Sutton.
one. Albert O, possibly. I'm not sure what we can get for him, but Albert O is definitely another, because I know the Broncos have been heavily linked to tight end in this draft, and possibly moving Albert O to get maybe more draft capital to land that tight end is definitely in the picture. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the big names, everybody, fantasy football community, your Cortland Suttons, your Jerry Judys, but, maybe a Jonathan Cooper, maybe a Nick Benito, maybe somebody else on that defensive side that we don't know as well could be moved. But again, shout out to Troy, 9999. That's so incredible. Thank you so much for your support. We really, really do appreciate that. Also, we appreciate our guy, Michael Ronquillo, coming in saying, good evening, Nick, Carl, Lance, Eric, and Ron White. Go Broncos and Buckham. Well, go Michael. We always appreciate Michael coming in. Hope you're doing well over on Facebook. We missed you this morning, but I'm glad that you're back here now hanging out with us. Rob Bucksbaum coming in saying, good evening, gents, and Deacon Scott. MHH is the best, so thankful for you. Thoughts that we trade up from 67. John Michael Schmitz, Tippmann. Carl, what do you think here? John Michael Schmitz, Tippmann, is there any other centers that would be worth trading up for, or another guy that you're interested in here?
No, I'd say it's probably those two. And then after that, I'm willing to wait at the position. I think either of those guys could come in day one and be a starter for you. After that, I think it becomes a lot more of a competition at that. And it's just worth waiting, because I know Lloyd Cushenberry is not anybody's favorite by any means. And we'd love to see an upgrade for him, but he does have at least a couple years of experience starting, and he's got some better players around him for the first time in his career in the NFL. And so, I think if he does get the start and guys stay healthy, I think he could have his best year in the NFL. But like I said, if one of these guys is getting close, I would be getting antsy if I was the GM.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of center conversations here. These seem to be the two big consensus guys, but there's also some potential, guard or tackle converts as well. We'll talk about that here in a bit. But first, we're going to start to get into the conversation here for the pick 67 and 68 overall. And I'm going to kick this one to Eric real quick. Carl said that his top two centers were John Michael Schmitz and Joe Tippmann. For me, the guy that I'm honestly maybe hoping a potential trade up for more than anybody else is somebody who I think will play center. He's actually played more games at center than any other position, but you haven't really seen him linked to that position in the draft process so far. That is TCU's Steve Avila, center. He's absolutely massive, pushing, about 330, 320, 6'3". Any thoughts on a potential Steve Avila, Eric, for the Broncos? Is he going to be just way out of reach for them?
Oh, be still my beating heart. That is my biggest draft crush this year. I'm a huge fan of Steve Avila. I like the versatility he brings inside, and for what Sean Payton wants to do on offense, I think he can come in guard or center. Obviously, we're talking center here, and start right away for it and be a significant upgrade over Lloyd Cushenberry, because Lloyd Cushenberry isn't that good. But so if he falls far enough, and we're talking about somewhere after pick 50, I would absolutely love to see it. He's one of those guys. All the focus has been on Cody Mauk or Ekiyor out of Alabama for those guys from moving from outside, moving into center. But Steve Avila, he's got the experience. He did it not last season, but the season before. He did quite well there. Was a little better at guard, but at the very least, you get a serviceable guy at center that you can use to upgrade the position and kind of finish off your rebuilding of the offensive line.
Yeah, the thing I love about him is you see a lot of these centers, they come in 295 to 305 pounds, and you got Avila who's there, 320, like an absolute unit, not too tall. If you're looking at the Sean Payton style, how they're trying to build those guys, wide as they are tall, especially, being able to push the pocket, I think he's a really good one. And somebody who doesn't get blown up into the backfield. But let's start to get into it now. We're going to be picking here with the Broncos, 5 picks, no trades in this one, even though there's been some buzz over the last 48 hours that the Broncos might be trading up. But Ron, I'm going to kick it to you first. Who is your ideal pick at pick selection 67 for the Broncos if the board falls, and somebody who's somewhat realistic? I don't want to hear the Broncos taking, maybe somebody like a Will Anderson there, or maybe one of the best, like Peter Skoronski would be incredible there. Who's your most realistic favorite pick for the Broncos 67-68 range?
So mine would be, I know we were just talking about center, and my pick at 67 is center. So it would be Joe Tippmann. I think that's the more realistic pick. I'm like you, Eric, where Steve Avila is one of my crushes as well. But I just don't know if he's gonna be there at the time that the Broncos pick, because he did have a good day there at the Bulls. But I would say Joe Tippmann. From what I've seen on tape, what he's done, an effective blocker in the run game and in pass protection. I think he only allowed 1 sack and 5 pressures over last year. So I think that would definitely be an upgrade for sure over Cushenberry.
Yeah, he's a really interesting player. I believe he was the #1 high school recruit out of Illinois. Wisconsin was in on him early, and he ended up going there. A little bit of weird body type for the center position, being 6'6". There has not been a lot of centers 6'6" that have played a lot of snaps over the last 5 years. I think the only one that really comes to mind to me is Ethan Pokasik. Maybe Will Clapp is up there as well, pretty tall. But, either way, he can play center, he can play guard, and would be a really good pick out there for the Broncos at 67. No doubt, if he falls that far. We'll see. It's this kind of, who knows at this point in the draft. It's going to be a wild year. I'm really excited to hang out with you guys and talk about the draft. Lance, how about you? Ideal pick, 67-68. How does the board fall? You mentioned cornerback. Is there a cornerback who has your, your heart fluttering out there?
Well, the one that really has my heart fluttering the most is Julius Brents, but I'm almost positive he's not going to be there. We're talking, 6'2", 6'3", 215 pounds, 34-inch arms, like really sticky coverage cornerback. But I'm going to go in a different direction here. I'm going to go to the edge position. Felix Anudike-Uzomah from Kansas State is a guy that I really like, playing that 7 technique defensive end on the backside of this defense. You obviously have Zach Allen, who you brought in free agency. Randy Gregory's probably going to play on the outside of him. You got to have a guy that can really hold up in the running game, and Felix Anudike-Uzomah is really that guy. He plays with his length really well. He's got a strong anchor in the running game. He's very productive as a pass rusher. Had 13.5 sacks this last season at Kansas State. So that's the guy that is my most ideal pick for the Broncos. But again, it all depends on if he falls there.
Yeah, he's a really fun player. Very good hand technique out there. A pretty good body type for that 7 technique. I don't know if he's overly athletic or bendy or anything, but he just gets after it. Hair on fire player. Also, I love the forced fumble production that he's had there the last 2 years. That guy hunts the football. That's something to watch out for, especially with how this Broncos team has really struggled creating turnovers over the last couple seasons. We also got our guy, Phil McLaughlin, coming in here. Phil is a big-time supporter of the show. Thank you so much, Phil. We always love to hear what you have to say. He says, good evening, Eric, Lance, Ron, Carl, Nick, and Deacon Scott. Hey, guys, just curious. The Broncos have a precedent of firing general managers after the draft. Anyone think this could happen? Hashtag Buckham, hashtag Broncos. Let's kick it off to Carl. Carl, what do you think? Where are you at with, obviously, this is just, off of vibes here, gut feeling, but how safe is George Paton?
I would say he's safe for this year. I can't see them making that big of a change even after the draft here. I think Sean Payton's going to want to get settled in for a season, kind of evaluate the entire scouting department and even George Paton himself. And then I think you could see him make a decision. And, they haven't had a whole lot of time working together, but it seems like they do get along pretty decently. You see them in those interviews and they're kind of feeding off each other. So I don't think there's a lot of hatred there, or Sean Payton saying, I need to get this guy out of here, so it's my way or the highway. I think he'll give him at least a season just to see if this is a working relationship that can make it work.
Yeah, good call there. Thank you so much, Phil. We appreciate you coming in with the stars. If you guys have any questions for us and you definitely want to get it on the screen, hit us with a super chat or superstars, and we will for sure get to you then. Eric, real quick, just a quick one here. 67-68. Who is your ideal guy? You kind of mentioned Steve Avila. I'm with you there, man. I think he would be incredible there. Any other players who's more realistic there without a trade up?
Well, like Lance, I like Julius Brents quite a bit, but I don't think he'll be there. Joe Tippmann, he's one of the guys that I would absolutely love to be there. But again, I don't think he is. If he is there, it'll be because of some concerns about his shoulders, having a couple surgeries on it. I like Zach Harrison out of Ohio State. I like him a little bit more than Felix out of Kansas State, right?
Yep,
Anyways,
Kansas State. Yep, Manhattan.
Kansas State. I like Zach Harrison a little bit more, and it's for very similar reasons. I think he's got a little bit more there as a run defender than Felix does, and I think that you have a lot more to work with, and his length is absolutely insane.
Yeah. Former, I think, #1 overall recruit as a defensive end at Ohio State, was supposed to be the next in line after Bosa, Chase Young. Never really lived up to it. The pressure numbers are there, but somebody with a little bit of stiffness that struggled with finishing off blocks. But the pressures were there, and he's an impactful run defender. Carl, for you, 67, 68, where are you looking? Where's your guts right now? Talked a lot about edge rusher, talk center. Anybody else that stands out there for you?
I'll go the tight end position a little bit here.
Okay.
A guy that I think could be realistic is Luke Musgrave. He only played a couple games this last year, so you kind of are a little bit limited on the film that way, but athletic freak. I mean, the guy can fly down the field. Got a few things that he needs clean up. Route running is not the best by any means. And, run blocking, I want to see a little bit more from him, but he at least has effort in it. That's a good starting point. There's a lot of guys that come out of college don't have that effort thing. So I think if he could be there, he'd be a nice weapon to add to that offense.
Yeah, without a doubt. Just a few guys here that I'm hoping to see if maybe the Broncos have a chance if they fall within close. Got to be biased first. Jack Campbell. I know I'm not the biggest linebacker guy, but I adore Jack Campbell, man. He is probably the safest player in the entire draft. Huge, can move well in space, super instinctual. Love Jack. Somebody I've been a big fan of for a number of years now, Keanu Benton. Wisconsin, 6'5", 315. He can play over the A gap. He can play over the B gap. Broncos have done a lot to invest in the big guys up front on the offensive line. Defensive line after DJ Jones, a little bit of a question mark depending on where you're lining up Zach Allen. So a few guys there, and obviously the cornerbacks. We talked about Brent's, but Tyreek Stevenson's really interesting to me. DJ Turner's really interesting to me. Darius Rush is really interesting to me. So there's a number of guys there. I really like where tight end and cornerback set up specifically at 67 and 68. But I think it's about time to get it going here. We talked about what we're hoping for as the board falls down. But first, we got a big super chat coming in, $1.99 from Big Kid Rook coming in. Texas A&M running back Devon Achane, Clayton Tune, quarterback from Houston later on. Devon Achane, I think he was the Broncos pick by Dane Brugler, 67 overall. I think he weighed less than 190, which has been a pretty concerning cutoff for running backs historically. But the wide receivers, I think it's the smallest wide receiver class ever this year by weight. So maybe the running back in a little smaller too. Do you have any thoughts on Achane, Ron?
Yeah, Achane's good. I don't see them picking up running back that high, but he is definitely an intriguing player for sure.
Explosive for sure.
Explosive, yes, definitely.
And Clayton Tune had, I think, pretty good S2 score. Somebody that I think Dane Brugler also mentioned as a solid potential day 3 quarterback. So the Broncos, I wouldn't be shocked at all especially if they traded down from round 4 or round 5 and accumulated more day 3 picks. Maybe somebody like Clayton Tune makes some sense for them there. But I think it's time to get this mock draft rolling. We're at 20 minutes in, and I want to have plenty of time to discuss the different options here and give you guys a chance, and you guys in the chat a chance to run this. So when Scott, am I pulling this up, or are you pulling up the simulator? You okay? So we'll answer a few questions here, and then we'll be running on the PFF side of things. The mock draft simulator, 7 rounds, but 5 picks for the Broncos. Michael Ronquillo mentions a tight end from arguably tight end Sam Laporta from Iowa. Lance, why would you tell me why? And I'm setting you up here to make me mad, but why would you not take Sam Laporta in comparison to the other top tight ends in this class?
Because he's very similar to what the Broncos already have in Greg Dulcich. He's an athletic speed move tight end. He's not the best blocker in line. He can do it. He's definitely got the ability to be a blocker there, but you already have that kind of an archetype, a guy that moves really well, has a big catch radius, is a very reliable receiver, but you need to have a guy that can be a firm blocker in the running game up front, and Laporta is just lacking in that category right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's more of a move tight end, which is weird for University of Iowa, considering how they built their offense. But yeah, I agree with you. You don't want him on the front end, even on an outside zone kind of run blocking scheme. I think he's more of a back end blocking tight end. But man, they were lining up an X receiver a lot and isolating him. So he's going to be a good player for somebody out there. Any other tight ends we should talk about here? Gary Palmer says, thank you for the 1999, Gary. Good evening, guys. Besides center and defense, is there a tight end we should target? Go Broncos. Eric, give me a couple, just 2. Day 3 tight ends.
Oh man, this is such a strong tight end class. It's the best it's been in a while. It's hard to narrow down to just two, especially two day three. I like Payne Durham. I know he doesn't really fit the modern mold you're looking at for tight ends, but he's just that reliable blocker, reliable receiver that you can just put out there. He can cement you as a number two tight end for years to come. Another guy who it depends on how he's viewed with an injury, Luke Schumacher coming out of Michigan. He's another guy I like quite a bit. That might not be there day three, but again, it's the injury that there's some concern there that could see him fall a little bit.
Yeah, Schoonmaker. Michigan's had a pretty good job with the tight ends going on here past years. I think they have the number one tight end in the country, a true freshman, this last year too. Transferred a guy named Erick, who spells his name correctly according to Erick Trickel. Erick all out there transfer another potential future NFL guy. So they've done a pretty good job with tight ends. Schoonmaker, you mentioned it. The injuries are concerning, but I know a lot of people have him as the seventh tight end in this class, and that's not a bad spot to be because there seems to be a consensus big six. So let's see who's available for the Broncos when we're pulling up this simulator. Obviously, the Broncos are going to be picking at selection 67 and 68. They have back-to-back selections. We will see if they stick there again over the last few days. There's been some buzz that the Broncos might be looking to trade up, but maybe players involved too would be interesting. But first, we got a stars coming in from Dan Wilkett saying, why draft a blocking tight end when Denver already has Albert Okoye? Pause for laughter. Everybody, tick your heads back and let no, we don't need to bury a guy. But Alberto, I think last year, the first 3 weeks of the season, he was 100% tell on the play. I literally think it was 100% where if he was on the field, it was a passing play. And you cannot have, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. Somebody can search that one up for me, but you can't have a tell like that. So let's get it going here. You guys, any thoughts on the board? Eric, is this all good on your end? The randomness, the draft for needs?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Well, let's do it. I'm excited to see how this mock draft simulator falls. I feel like the PFF one has started to make me sad a little bit because the players that I typically like go pick 58, 59, 60 pretty consistently. But let's see who the Broncos have to pick here as we are on the board now for the Broncos. Let's see who went off the board a little bit before. Maybe worth a slight trade up for the Broncos. You got Matthew Bergeron, interesting player, might be a tackle, might be a guard. Derek Hall, somebody that I really like out of Auburn. There's Julius Brents. Maybe he'd be worth trading up for there. He's interesting. DJ Turner, Cedric Tillman's an interesting X-receiver in this class. Dexter goes right there. Tyreek Stevenson, one pick before that. That's a little bit of a bummer. But we are now on the clock with the Broncos. We'll have a slight scroll here. Sam Laporta, Tank Dell, Zach Charbonnet, Luke Weipler, Keanu Benton, Nick Airbig, Darius Rush, Rashid Rice is out there, Tucker Kraft, Marvin Mims. So there's obviously, every time we do this, some good players available on the board. There's Jonathan Mingo. That's one of Scott's favorite guys in the entire draft. So I'm going to kick it off to Ron first. Ron White, who sticks out for you on this first pass through for pick 67, 68? Clock's not running. Even if it did, Broncos at pick 68 here, so maybe you let them go all the way down. Oh, the next pick, they're going to jump you. Oh, you have that pick as well. But Ron, who's sticking out for you at pick 67 for the Broncos?
Can we filter out by center?
You just want to see centers? So I saw Luke Weipler was there. I think all the top other centers were gone. You have a couple guys that could be available. And there's some talk maybe Chandler Zavala might move to center. We'll see. He's only played left guard, but he's an interesting player. You got Olu from Michigan. Juice Scruggs is there. Some talk maybe John Gaines is going to move to center. I would guess that, Stromberg from Arkansas, the SEC offensive lineman from the year, is still available. And probably even further down, you might have Emil Ekiyor, who is a center option as well. So there are some centers. Alex Forsyth still down there as well. But it looks like the Broncos missed out on the top tier, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay, for me, I will scroll up a little bit there, Nick. I'll go with Luke Weipler.
Okay, you want Luke Weipler here. Tell me a little bit why.
Again, I told folks before that, if there's a center there, that's going to be my choice at 67, just because, as we saw with Lloyd Cushenberry, that we can't trust going into next season that's going to be the answer at center. Although we are banking that he does improve, but we can't count on it. And then the center depth, I think that's a concern. And also, Luke Weipler's game seems pretty good. As you pull up the grades here, it seems pretty well, except the 2020 season, obviously, but seems like it's pretty good so far. So that would be my choice. I was also looking at Keanu Benton as well. We could probably say that's the next pick for me, but
Okay, all right. Well, let's hear from Lance now. Lance, who are you thinking here? Try to keep it a little short. Obviously, we have back-to-back picks here. We have one vote for Luke Weipler. Are you gonna double down on that, or is there somebody else here who's interesting to you?
Keanu Benton is the obvious name that stands out to me. You got to get a guy that can play along the interior of the defensive line here. You need a guy that can play in the A gaps. You need a guy that can play in the B gaps. He plays with good length. He brings some pass rush upside. That's the guy that I'm looking for here. Sneaky need here too as well. I like Marvin Mims a lot. That's going to be my option for number 68 as well. You need some speed at the wide receiver position, reliability there with KJ Hamler being often injured. Tim Patrick coming off an injury as well. So you got to get some speed there, and Marvin Mims brings it. So Keanu Benton, Marvin Mims, those are my guys.
All right. Well, he gave us two names here. We have one for Keanu Benton / Mims. We have, I guess, another one for Benton and Mims. We might as well just compile these two picks together since we're both doing them. Carl, what do you think here? Any other thoughts on any of these other players that stand out?
Well, I mean, yeah, Laporte he's a nice weapon to add to the offense, but like Lance said, you kind of already got a player that's similar within that. And so I'd be looking for a little bit different type of tight end than what he brings to the table. But I mean, he's a great player. Don't get me wrong. And if the Broncos didn't have Dulcich last year, he would be a guy that would be on my board and saying, I think he'd be a great weapon to add to this team. But Benton right now, yeah, he's definitely the guy. Yeah. And that run block rate, I mean, and you see it, he doesn't have that. And the Broncos are gearing up to be a very strong run team. And if he can't add to that, it's hard to see how he's going to see the field and be a real impact player this year. Now, Benton, I think he's a guy that can come in day one and be a part of that rotation on the defensive line and actually be a good player for them. He's got the size, he's got the length, he's got the just a few moves. I mean, he's got to add more to his repertoire than what he's got right now, but he's got at least enough on the table as a rookie that he can come in and not be a liability for you. So I definitely go him here at pick 67. That defensive line needs depth big time. You can't go into this season with what you got right now. And then, yeah. I mean, if we're going the very next pick, I mean, Lance kind of hit on my guy, Marvin Mims. I've been a big fan of his here for a while. It'd be hard to go against that. Corey Trice is there, though. That's another guy at that cornerback position. If we're looking to really add to that group, I'd be very into that idea. So I'd probably go defense. I'd go Corey Trice there for that second pick.
Okay, Eric, I think you'll probably say Keanu Benton as well. Can I just get a thumbs up, Keanu Benton? Give me an elevator pitch. Keanu Benton, why is he the good pick here? He's somebody that I mentioned I'd even be interested in trading up for, and he falls to the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, Denver's done. I mean, they replaced Draymond Jones with Zach Allen, but they lost Deshaun Williams. That's like almost, I think it was like 500 to 600 snaps they've lost on their defensive line. And you're looking at either going big with DJ Jones and Mike Purcell both on the defensive line, or you're looking at Matt Henningsen or Ayoma Uwazurike getting starting reps. You got to do something. You got to fill out that role. Keanu Benton, it can be rough for rookie defensive linemen transitioning to the NFL. He can come in. He can replace what you lost in Deshaun Williams right away, either playing as that nose tackle or moving outside and playing as that kind of 4-3 technique that Deshaun Williams was. Either way. And he's got good enough versatility that you can use him. You can he helps out with the edges. And this is something with defensive linemen with pass rush that often goes unmentioned, is how much they do to occupy attention, occupy blockers for the edge rushers to try to limit the double teams. Denver needs somebody like that on the inside that you hope Zach Allen is, but Benton can provide that enough as well. And then next pick, I didn't think he was going to go mention, but Carl mentioned it. Corey Trice. That would be my next pick.
Do you like Corey Trice more than Darius Rush?
For this scheme, yes.
For this scheme. Okay.
Likewise.
Divine Breaks. How come is that?
Sorry,
how come, Lance?
I think he brings more physicality to the position. He's a more sure tackler. He also has that the ability to play in multiple different schemes. Rush, I like a lot. He's a good athlete, but Corey Trice just brings a certain sense of physicality that I don't think Darius Rush does. I really liked it and enjoyed the tape that I watched of him at Purdue this last season. So
interesting. Well, definitely two guys who being projected in the top 10 seems pretty consistently here. Divine Breaks, $10. Thank you so much, Divine Breaks. He says, I would say center as well, if not defensive end or tight end Kraft. So I think we can make our first pick here. I think we're in consensus. I don't have to fight too hard. Keanu Benton is the first one here. We're going to go back around on 68, but I think 67 is going to be the guy from Wisconsin. Keanu Benton, 6'5", 315 pounds. It was a Senior Bowl standout as well. I don't have an issue going with Luke Weipler. Personally, I think I don't know if I love him in this scheme. I think he's more of an outside zone centric scheme. I think he's much better on the move in that blocking scheme versus the head up, trying to dig guys out. But if you're looking to add, also because of the size, I am curious about the versatility to play guard as well. But he's one that the chat really does seem to want, Luke Weipler, and Ron made a pretty good pitch on him as well. Good athlete. He's also, I think, exceedingly young at the center position as a redshirt sophomore, so room to grow as well. Phil McLaughlin coming at the Stars, though, mentioning a wide receiver that we glossed over, but Scott wouldn't let us pass up talking about this one. Jonathan Mingo, Ole Miss. I think it was Pete Schrager, NFL Network, had Jonathan Mingo going to the Bills in a recent first-round mock. He's one of the few actual size wide receivers in this upcoming class. And I'm going to ask my wide receiver guy here, Carl. Jonathan Mingo, you haven't mentioned him so much. I know you typically like the speedier, faster guys, but what about Mingo?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't mind him one bit. I mean, he's big, he's strong. And especially if the Broncos are looking at maybe trading like a Cortland Sutton, you like to have another big guy that you can replace him with. When he gets that ball in his hand, he's a force to bring down for sure. That 220 pounds, and he looks like he runs runs faster than what you would think of a guy for 220 pounds. So I definitely wouldn't mind him one bit if that's the direction the Broncos want to go at wide receiver. Like I said, if you're looking at moving on from a guy like Cortland Sutton, I think he would be a nice one to have added to the rotation.
Interesting. Well, he's definitely an interesting player. Back to the simulator here. My pick for pick 68, and you guys can fight me on this one. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't go with a guy I just had mocked to the Broncos at pick 67 in no, not Sam Laporta, but Tucker Kraft. I think Tucker Kraft projects as a very good wide tight end in the NFL. They used him a lot of different ways at South Dakota State, but he's 6'5.5", 255 pounds, and still growing. I know that Alabama offered him six figures to leave South Dakota State this last season, and he decided he wanted to go back and play with his teammates and his recruiting class at San Diego State. And I think he's actually one of the few players in this class that actually projects as somebody who could play a wide tight end position. And given the comments from Mike Klutz recently, who I don't want to say derogatory, but definitely talked down about Greg Dulcich, saying they need more from their tight end than short shorts and curly hair. Looking for somebody who is like a tight end like Tucker Kraft, I think would be my pick here for the Broncos. But I could be talking to somebody else. What are you thinking, Lance? Are you still on Corey Trice? I will say, just playing the draft value game here, Corey Trice is available a lot in the fourth.
I'm actually kind of surprised that the PFF has him this high. I have him as a fourth-round player on my board. I'm still all about Marvin Mims here, though. You got to get that speed threat. So the downfield versatility, he's a good route runner, and if you just ask him, he'll tell you he's the best route runner in this class. But like I said last week, Jackson Smith and Jigba does exist still. So Mims is my pick.
Okay,
you can talk me into Trice, though. You could talk me into Trice, though.
Carl, are you on the Mims train as well?
Well, I said Corey Trice last time. And so I'm looking at that cornerback position. Wide receiver, I'd love to add Mims, but at least I feel decent about the wide receiver position right now. You got three guys that are pretty good, can be starters for you on this team. Right now, you've got two corners that you got one that's a for sure starter, another that you hope can be a potential starter, and then not much else. You got your slot corner as well. I guess I should add him, but on the outside. So I think Corey Trice would be my pick because you really got to add to that room.
Yeah. And we get Divine Breaks saying, I think Divine Breaks has the connection to our guy, Tucker Kraft. So he wants Tucker Kraft for sure. And see that some comments here about the focus going on. I think it's just an issue on YouTube right now. Maybe it's StreamYard because of how many people we have in here, but it looks clean on my end. So I'm going to kick it to, I know that Ron was going Weipler. Are we still on Weipler? Is there anybody else here that was interesting to you? I'd be fine with any of the guys you mentioned.
Yeah, Mims. I'm going back and forth between Mims and Trice. I'll probably go with Trice. Mims would be great. The speed, like I said, the athleticism is off the charts. But given the wide receiver room was already good, it's solid, it's stable for now, and cornerback depth still concerns me. I would say Trice is my other option in this case.
Okay, so we got two Trice, one Mims, one craft for me. And what are you thinking, Eric? Where are you at in this right now? We haven't heard from you in a second.
For this coverage schemes that Vance Joseph likes to use, Corey Trice is a natural fit. I like Marvin Mims, and he would definitely be an option for me. He brings that explosive playmaking ability, but I think that this receiver has a lot of those types of guys in it. There are not many corners in this class, and it's a strong corner class, don't get me wrong. There are not many guys that are naturally made for this coverage scheme that we're going to be seeing in Denver this year. And I am one that I don't care how good you look as a rookie, you have to have competition. There's no one on the roster to compete with Mathis for that second starting spot.
And real quick, just kicking it back to you, any concerns about the injuries? Trice's injury list has gotten pretty long over the last couple of years. I think he had a surgery that caused him to miss some time as well. Is that something you're concerned about with the cornerback position specifically?
I mean, for me, it's a big thing on what the injuries are also, because not all injuries are equal for each position. But it is something that's concerning. Anytime any player is getting banged up and missing time, I can't remember exactly how many games he missed. I remember typing it up, but it was a good amount. And so it is a concern about it, but obviously you factor that into his value. And he's a guy who he's consistently risen up boards through the draft process. He was being talked about as a round 6 guy, had an excellent combine, moved up a little bit. And from what I've gathered, the medical checks have come back really clean with him. So that just gives me a little bit reassurance there. I mean, obviously it doesn't project going forward, but it's some comfort anyways.
Yeah, I mean, just 6'3", 32 arm length. Not the craziest arm length, but still pretty good. And then the 4.47 40 with that size. Also 12 passes defense and 2 interceptions this last year. I mean, that's pretty darn impressive. The ACL injury in 2021 is concerning, but I think we don't have a consensus. But Corey Trice there we have 3 votes for him now. Fine, you guys are going to outrule me with Tucker Kraft. We're going to outrule Ron with Weipler. That's fine. We'll have to go that way. A good GM listens to everybody else on there. And I don't think the chat was as in on Corey Trice as well. But hey, if the Broncos end up going with Trice with one of these picks, we can come right back around and be like, listen, we love this guy. So let's go ahead and take a Corey Trice here. We maybe could have gamed the system a bit and waited one more round, but they don't want to. If you love the guy, you got to take him now. That's the pretty much the rule of thumb there. So we're going to be on the board again. We've taken 2 defensive players now, a cornerback, a boundary corner, maybe some safety ability. I think he was recruited to Purdue as a safety, and then a defensive lineman. So now we're back on the clock. I am going to kick it over to Carl here to talk first. Where are you thinking on this first pass over on the board? And can you go back to the top, Scott? I'm going to read just some of the names available. If you will, we got a guy, Chandler Zavava, potentially a guard there. Maybe somebody could play some center. Kobe Turner, I think he's way overhyped on this board. I know Eric was joking about it too. We always skip him, as well as Anthony Johnson Jr., who I saw, I think it was Collinsworth, had Anthony Johnson Jr. going in the first round of his mock draft. I have not seen that anywhere else before, so interesting. Luke Schoonmaker, you guys mentioned him earlier as an interesting player for the Broncos there. Moro Ojomo, we already took an interior defensive line, but Ojomo is a different type of player. A.T. Perry at wide receiver. Dwayne McBride, running back UAB. Carl Brooks, an interesting defensive lineman. Again, another guy that's more of the tweener between those picks. Can we keep scrolling down there, Scott, just a little bit? So the listeners, Dorian Williams, love Dorian Williams, interesting player. And then we started getting to some of the running backs. Chase Brown is here. Deuce Vaughn is here. I'm sure there's a few more down there. Riley Moss available, although we've already taken a quarterback. Wanya Morris, interesting there. Tackle, developmental tackle. So, Carl, on this first pass through, where do you want Scott to go with the board? Is there anybody who stands out to you?
There's a few names that stick out. I mean, unfortunately, we already took cornerback. I like Riley Moss quite a bit. Dorian Williams, really love him there at linebacker. I think he'd be a great player for this defense, even if it's not quite the biggest need on the team. And then I think if you scrolled up a little bit more, like you said, Schoonmaker's another one for that tight end position. Would be a great player for the Broncos, exactly what they're looking for. Great run blocker, can play that inline position, just would be a natural fit right off the bat, guy that you could actually get some day one production from. And, he's not going to be the greatest receiver for you. He's not going to put up 1,000 yards by any means, but he's going to do enough to continue to be a competent player for you moving forward. So I'd probably, if I'm going a direction, I'd probably go that direction just because, again, I see a path for him getting early snaps for the Broncos and at a position of need that this roster doesn't really have right now.
Yeah, for sure. Ron, where are you at on this one? Do you want to look at the centers again, the interior offensive line?
Yes.
Let's look at the centers again.
Line.
All right, you got Chandler Zavala. You got Sidney Sow in there. Andrew Voorhees got injured, might have to miss the entire year. And you got a run of centers that look like they might be available here. Olu Timi, Juice Scruggs is available. John Gaines. You still got Emil Ekiyor. Had some good center snaps there at the Senior Bowl. You got Brett Nelson out there. Ricky Stromberg, who I think is a little bit underrated compared to where I have him, but option there. And then Alex Forsyth. So you still have some centers available. I don't know if they're of value here, but if there's one here that stands out to you, then I got no issue with you taking a swing.
Yeah, scroll down again.
And we've added tackles now too. Braden Daniels might play the center position in the NFL. He's listed as tackle here, but he's small. He could probably play all 5 spots. He's an interesting one. Emil Ekiyor again stands out here. I think that some people have had him mocked mid-4th round, so this wouldn't be too early if he's your guy. And then again, Ricky Stromberg stands out.
Yeah, I like Ricky Stromberg is good, but I think he'll be there a little later. Okay. Go to tight. Let's filter by tight end.
So you got Luke Schoonmaker, Brenton Strange, a little bit more of a hybrid player. Dennis Allen is interesting. Zach Kuntz tested as the best overall tight end in the entire draft this last year, according to the size and everything. Payne Durham, an inline guy. Josh Wiley's interesting out of there in Cincinnati. Will Mallory. Still some good tight ends on the board.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Schoonmaker.
Schoonmaker's your guy. Okay, that's 2 for Schoonmaker. We've heard from Carl. We've heard from Ron. Let's hear from Lance now. Lance, anywhere else that you want to look at the board before we move on? We've looked at the interior offensive line, who's available there. We've looked at tight end, edge rusher, not corner, safety, any other spots there? Wide receiver. We talked a lot of wide receiver, and we passed on that last one. Any other spots, or is Schoonmaker just so obvious for you?
Yeah, Schoonmaker is just too obvious for me on this one. I'm really hoping that Emil Ekiyor makes it to the next round for Denver because I think he fits the scheme really well. I really want to see him at center, and you just have to add some more competition for Luke Wattenberg and for Lloyd Cushenberry. So Ekiyor, I really have my eyes on here, but I think it's a little bit rich for him.
And I don't think Sam Laporta is still available. I think Albert's asking. We haven't taken a tight end yet, so we are looking at tight ends. But looking over here on the right, I think Sam Laporta went a bit ago, unfortunately. There's Roshan Johnson. He'd have been a fun one at running back for the Broncos there. There's Sam Laporta, 82 to the Bucks. There goes Scott's guy, Yaya Diaby, and Jalen Duncan there, 2 picks. One of my favorites in the class, pick 85, unfortunately, the Chargers. Nick Saldiveri. Darius Rush there at 86. So some good players there, round 3 that have come off the boards. Also, big run on the wide receivers as well. All those wide receivers we were talking about, poof. They tend to really fly off the boards, pick 70 to 80. So, Eric, where are you at on this one? Is it Schoonmaker? Are there any other positions you want to check out before we get in this pick?
Yeah, I mean, Schoonmaker, he's gonna be the pick. There's already 3 guys on it, but let's take a look at running back and edge real quick. Those are the last 2 positions that I want to take a look at, see if there's somebody here that I have a pretty high value specifically at running back on. I think with Ricky Stromberg, he would probably be my go-to guy here. I think he can start right away, but you can game the system with where he's valued on PFF board. You can get him a little bit later. So looking at edges don't look great, and you can probably sit and wait on running back a little bit. Dwayne McBride, I have absolutely no interest in him whatsoever. With his fumble rate. Israel Abanikanda, I think he's gone by this point. So he's a guy that would interest me here as well. He's got decent, I mean, he absolutely tested insane. Good receiving ability, solid blocker, pretty physical, has some good versatility. So I'd probably go Abanikanda personally, but with it being the votes that it is, it's the tight end out of Michigan, who I do like quite a bit.
Yeah, I really like him as well. I will say Zach Kuntz's overall athletic profile is very interesting if he's available. I was looking at Israel Abanikanda. You know who his number 1 comparison is on Mock Draftable? Devontae Booker. Now, you guys might remember that name from Utah out there. It's interesting. Little flashback there. But yeah, let's go with we have Schoonmaker here. He's obviously an interesting one. Let's hope he can stay healthy. A better luck than the last tight end we took from Michigan, but really good player. I know a lot of people have him going mid-3rd round, so to get him at the top of the 4th, I think is a great pick. He'd have been the one that I would say to take here as well. He stands out to me. So maybe even a little bit glad that we waited on, didn't take Tucker Kraft there, although maybe Trice would have been available here, but let's make the pick here. Luke Schoonmaker, first offensive player coming off the board to the Broncos here. And we got 2 more picks here. We got a 5th round pick and a 6th round pick. Let's see who's available. Always these 3 picks. Same guys. If you guys have done a PFF simulator, these 3 are always available at this pick. Kobe Turner, Tanner McKee, and Anthony Johnson Jr. Let's keep it scrolling here. We're looking at wide receiver. We're looking at halfback. Deuce Vaughn is still there. You got Eli Ricks. Marte, just real quick, Scott, if you scroll up real quick. Marte Mapu, I think the Broncos, it was just announced today by Kliss that the Broncos brought him in for a top 30 visit. He's somebody that's kind of a safety linebacker hybrid that somebody mentioned earlier, like a player that's risen the most over the draft process. I think maybe it might be Mapu here, who has been flying up. A lot of people think he's going to go in the top 100. Really interesting player here for the Broncos. I know we already took Trice, but Mapu's an interesting one. No doubt. You still got Israel Abanikanda. The Broncos are looking at running back, no doubt. You got your centers here and Oluwatimi and Grew Scruggs. I'm guessing Stromberg and Ekiyor still might be available as well. So outside of wide receiver, which is a position we looked at some, I think that the interior offensive line and running back look pretty good if those are areas that we are interested in going for the Broncos here. And I'm going to kick it off to Eric. Eric, you've been coming up on the back end a lot of these. Who's the first guy that's standing out to you in this pick? And there goes Ekiyor at pick 127.
So here I would be looking at, I mean, there's so many places that the Broncos can use help. I still think that edge needs to be addressed because the room that Denver has, it's so full of potential, but nobody can stay on the field. Even Baron Browning has missed a lot of time in his 2 years. I was really hoping Yaya Diaby would fall a little bit. He's one of my guys. But I'm just not seeing anybody that stands out as a take me now kind of guy. Without gaming the system, I would go Stromberg here. I don't think he's available here. There's been a lot of talk that he could be the 3rd best center in this class from quite a few people. PFF is just so low on him. He's the guy I would go here with gaming the system with what already has been done. But I'd also be looking at running backs. I know the Broncos, they want a little bit more explosive ability on offense, either both at running back and wide receiver. So, I mean, those are 2 positions I would look at as well. But yeah, I'd go Stromberg here.
Ron, what are you thinking? Are we going to finally take that center you've been pounding the table for, or are you going to switch and pick a running back or something else here?
Center. Stromberg.
Ron's going to log out here if we don't take a center here before long. Carl, where are you at on this pick? Are there any other spots? I know that you're a wide receiver kind of guy through and through. Are there any receivers that stand out to you here? I know the Broncos have done a good bit of work on the receiver, and there might be some snaps available for center after the draft, depending on what happens with the trades and whatnot.
Oh, nobody, again, like Eric was saying earlier with the edge position, that's just jumping off the plate and saying, you got to get this guy that he's so much more above the rest of them. You know, I mean, there's some decent role players within all this. So I'd definitely be looking for probably running back or center here at this position. I like Stromberg as well. And I'm with all of you that I don't think he'll be here at this point. I don't know why PFF has him like they do. Their rankings are so weird at times. But so, I mean, if we're doing the real draft and he's there, I'm going probably that position. But if I'm trying to game the system, I might be looking at running back here. We talked already about Israel Abanikanda. I think he'd be a great player for the Broncos. Like I said, brings lots of versatility to the offense, can actually be a pass catcher for him. He's still very young. I don't think he's even turned 21 yet, if I remember right. And so I think he would be probably, if I'm voting, because again, I'm trying to figure out this system, I'd probably go that direction because I'm not sure he's going to make it to the next round.
For sure. Where are you at, Lance? Are you on the Stromberg train as well? I think that's 2.5 for him. I think Carl was 1 foot in Stromberg and 1 foot in Israel Abanikanda.
I'm a little bit lower on Stromberg than everybody else here, not quite as low as PFF is. I would prefer Emil Ekiyor here just because you have that guard center versatility.
He's
there.
Gone. He's gone.
Oh, that's right. He's gone. Sorry about that. Abanikanda is another pick that I really like here just for that, the home run hitting ability that he does have. He does have a little bit more speed than people want to give him credit for, but I'm good with Stromberg here or Oluwatimi, Olusegun Oluwatimi, the center from Michigan. Either one of those guys is fine with me. So Stromberg, it seems like, is the pick here. So I'm good with that.
I mock Stromberg to the Broncos in the 4th round. I think he can play gap scheme, and he played guard as well at Arkansas. He's somebody who seems pretty safe there and can offer you some versatility. So Stromberg, I think, is a solid pick here. The Broncos get somebody who at least can compete with Lloyd Cushenberry year 1 and also offer multiple options at the guard position as well. And the Broncos continue to invest in the interior offensive line. I see a lot of comments here about edge rusher as well. Unfortunately, the Broncos with 5 picks and only picking 67, 68, and 108, just the board did not fall that way. I think there's kind of a drop-off about where the Broncos were picking before they went. Maybe we could have gone Zach Harrison there, but is what it is. So, yep, I think that we can make the pick here. Ricky Stromberg, center from Arkansas, coming to the Broncos here. Round here coming in. Hopefully I didn't zap out there for a second. And we are looking at running back. We're looking at quarterback, wide receiver. What are you thinking here, Ron?
We built on a running back.
For sure. So you still got Keaton Mitchell. You got Kenny McIntosh, who's a great receiving back. Evan Hull is a really interesting fit because the Broncos just hired the Northwestern running backs coach to be their coach. He also ran like a 4.4 40 and a pretty good pass catcher. Muhammad Ibrahim's been interesting. Chris Rodriguez is a hammer. So there's still some good running back options available here.
Yeah, scroll up there for me, Scott.
Up, not down. Back, reverse.
Yeah, McIntosh is. I like McIntosh and Hall actually. So I think I'm good with either of those. I would more of a receiving back. I'm mostly with McIntosh, so that would be my choice.
All right, Eric, where are you at on this one? Any other positions stand out? I mean, we haven't taken the backup tackles. Interesting. Is this the point where we start to talk backup quarterback? Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a really interesting player in terms of the arm talent and rushing ability. I think he improved some. I think there's some character questions or maturity questions with him, but he's interesting. We talked about Clayton Tune earlier. Maybe you want to double up. You got your guy Payne Durham, even though we took a tight end earlier. Talking about edge, Lonnie Phelps is interesting there from Kansas. And then we also got some interesting wide receivers. Bryce Ford Wheaton is somebody who tested like an absolute athletic freak for the Broncos here. So anybody that stands out to you here?
Yeah, actually, there's quite a, and you actually named him. Evan Hull is the running back I would look at. I would definitely be interested in Lonnie Phelps. He's got a lot of tools and traits. He's a good athlete. He's got solid size, not ideal for the NFL, but dude is energetic. He energizes the defense, and his energy can wear down blockers. I like his game a lot. I have him valued, if I remember correctly, higher than a 6th round pick. Huge Lonnie Phelps guy. I think you have to bring an edge. He raises the floor of the room. I'd also be looking at Matt Landers, the wide receiver out of Arkansas, or Bryce Ford Wheaton, the wide receiver out of West Virginia. Bryce Ford Wheaton does concern me a little bit because, Kevin White, he's the same player essentially. I would avoid Kenny McIntosh. I am not a fan of his whatsoever. There's been stuff coming about him. I mean, Matt Landers, there's character stuff. If we go on running back, Evan Hall's my guy. If you want to go elsewhere, if you want to really help what I view as the biggest need, edge rusher, it's Lonnie Phelps for me.
Okay, so we got one Kenny McIntosh. We got one Lonnie Phelps. Where are you at, Lance?
Well, if you saw me there for a second when they pulled up the running back room, I saw Kenny McIntosh there, and that's my dude. I love that guy. He's such a great route runner out of the backfield. Really good receiver. Runs a little bit more physical than his size, but at the same time, I'm kind of with Eric here. He also has a bad fumble history. It's like 1 every 74 touches he fumbles the football. So that's a big concern for me right now. I like Lonnie Phelps a little bit. What other edge defenders are available, though? Can we maybe take a look at that really fast, Scott, please? I don't think it's looking too great, honestly. Jose Ramirez is interesting. After that, it's not a whole lot.
I like
Thomas
Incoom.
Incoom. Yeah, Thomas Incoom's fun. Brenton Cox Jr., if he wasn't such a head case, would be a really fun speed rusher. I like Eku Leota too out of Auburn. I'm going to go with my co-host here. I'm going to go Lonnie Phelps. I think he raises the floor of the room, if nothing else. He's a really good run defender, and he's got the tools and traits that you want. He's, I guess, not the most explosive player, but he has some burst to him. Plays with his length pretty well. Really good run defender. I think there's some upside there. Lonnie Phelps is a very intriguing option to me, and he fits that need that you need to have on the backside as a 7 technique. So that's where I'm going to go.
All right, Carl, I'll kick it off to you. Are you going to go Lonnie Phelps as well, and make it a overall consensus, or are you going to go a different direction? I think you're muted.
Oh, yep, there we go. Okay. It's hard not to go Lonnie Phelps. One, I'm a KU fan. So the Broncos need a KU player on their team. You know, they were pretty good when they had a couple KU players not too long ago at cornerback position. And but no, I do. I love his game. The guy plays with his hair on fire, and just I think he would be just that ball of energy that you really need within that room that just gets everybody pumped up and excited. And like I said, just adds to the competition, adds some depth. He is a little bit shorter. You know, you'd like to be able to see him put on some more bulk with a little bit more size. But again, I think he would be a great pick for the Broncos this late. I mean, you're not finding day one starters, obviously, at this point. And so you're trying to find a guy that can add to the rotation and bring a little bit something to you. And I think Lonnie Phelps could do that for the Broncos.
All right. Well, Lonnie Phelps is going to be the pick here. I don't have any issue with this at all. He's a really good edge rusher. I feel like the Broncos kind of have like 3 Lonnie Phelps type of players on their team, but hey, they're getting a younger one and maybe one with a little bit more cost control, obviously. And you can flip one of those other guys later on. So here we are with the grades from PFF. I'm going to give you guys an A. Good job. Let's scroll down here. We got Keanu Benton going to the Broncos at pick 67 overall, defensive lineman from Wisconsin. Then we have cornerback doubling up on the Big Ten West here. Cornerback Corey Trice from Purdue, big cornerback. Then you got another Big Ten player, man. You guys are after me now. I think this is the bias towards my favorite conference. Luke Schoonmaker, tight end from Michigan, really fun player there, a good Y tight end option there. Falling to the 4th round, that's a heck of a get. Then you got a center from Arkansas here. They gave him an F on this one. I don't know if I agree with PFF on this one. We'll have to come back and see if he goes before pick 139. But Ricky Stromberg from Arkansas there at pick 159. And then closing it out here, round 6, pick 195 overall, Lonnie Phelps. They give us a B overall. I'm going to kick it off to Ron. Ron, what's your favorite pick of this group? What's the one that you are the most excited about?
Keanu Benton.
Keanu Benton? All
Yes.
right. Well, why is that?
Because we just on the defensive line, we definitely need to solidify that. That's a big weak link, and also Benton's game is very good. So that one's very exciting to me for sure.
Eric, what was the pick here where you come back and like, I wish we'd have gotten a little bit more value here, or maybe I could have gotten to this position a little later? It's hard to do with 5 picks. I know.
That's tough one because I think overall with where I have players on my board, I think we got good value. I do wish we got to edge a little bit earlier. I really like Lonnie Phelps and what he brings. It's just I just want somebody who can come in and bring more potential to start, just because you have absolutely no reliability from Randy Gregory to stay on the field. And Baron Browning, I mean, he started off last season hot, but he fell off a cliff, and injuries are an issue there. And edge is going to be a huge, huge need a year from now, where I think that Randy Gregory gets released. I don't think he'll be on the Broncos after this season. And you always try to draft for a year in advance, especially at edge. So I wish we got to edge earlier. Other than that, I really like what we've done. Got some positions got some players at key positions that we needed now as well as down the road. And with that, before I pass it back to you, I got to get out of here. I hope everybody has a wonderful night. Thank you guys for having me. I hope you guys like the chat. Thank you everyone for who's super chatted or starred and everything. We appreciate that. We love you guys. And I will see you guys on Thursday night for the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for Eric. Thank you so much for joining us. Lance, favorite pick here. Tell me why PFF is wrong about Trice.
Man, I'm not sure because I'm a little bit lower on Trice than PFF is, but you know what? This dude's fluid. He's athletic. He's got good length. He's got really good. He's a really good tackler. I wish he would be a little bit more physical at the catch point, but for the most part, he's got decent ball skills. He took the ball away. I believe he had some pretty decent forced fumble numbers as well. So like you're getting an all around player. He can play cover 1 in press. He can play off the ball. He can play cover 2, really good in cover 3, especially off the ball, because he uses his eyes so well that it just makes it a natural fit for what the Broncos want to do in their secondary.
Yeah, absolutely. And Carl, out of this group, who's the best chance for the Broncos to have who's the best chance to win Rookie of the Year from this group of the Broncos players, or the Broncos Rookie of the Year from that class of 5?
Probably Trice. I mean,
Really?
he has a path. Well, Ben, I don't think he can put up the stats to be a Rookie of the Year. he's going to be more of a help everybody else put up big stats kind of guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He'll put up some okay stats, but he's never going to be that guy that just wows people. Trice, like I said, I think he could, with his physicality, with his length, I think he could maybe put up some numbers that, and he's going to get a lot of throws his direction if he does start. That's the other thing. He might give up a lot of plays, but he could also have a lot of wow plays for you. So I think that's kind of a little bit of why I'd go that direction. Schoonmaker, like I said, he's going to have a role, but it's not going to be that pass catcher. Everybody wants the big stats, and he's not going to be that guy for you. Stromberg, I think he could start, but again, a center's not winning rookie of the year. And Phelps, he's going to be a role player. He's not going to be a starter. So that's why I feel like Trice has the actual best chance of all of them.
I think out of everybody we drafted here, the one who has the cleanest path to snaps is Schoonmaker. So I'd probably go with him out of that list, also playing a skill position out there. But either way, a lot of fun. Good job, guys. Not going too long. Hopefully you guys enjoyed all the chat, enjoyed the me playing host here as well. I think everybody brought some good points. Thank you, everybody who joined us today and joining us with the super chats, the superstars. Make sure you guys are tuning in. We're going to be live Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, the entirety of the marathon that is the NFL draft over those 3 days. So make sure you're tuning in for that. Also, make sure you're checking out Mile High Huddle. So that way you guys can find all of our latest content and articles. You guys know out. We're going to hang out for a second after we, I probably shouldn't read that one. I'm going to hang out for a second after we're done here, but make sure you guys are following Erick Trickel at Twitter at Erick Trickel. Make sure you're following Ron White at Ron White NFL, Carl Dumler on Twitter at Carl Dumler MHH, Lance at Lance S_MHH, and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Also, make sure you're following Scott at Scout Kennedy over on Twitter. Also, guys, make sure you're over on Twitter while you're there. Follow us at Mile High Huddle, of course, and over on Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. If you're joining us after the fact, make sure you go to Apple Podcast, leave us a 5-star rating and review, and please subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. You guys have a great one. I don't have anything else. Any final thoughts, guys, before we wrapping it up? Ron, good to see you. Good to talk with you. Any final thoughts?
Nah, it was a good draft. Good conversation.
All right. Well, thanks, Ron.
Looking forward to the draft. Yeah.
It's going to be great. Lance, final thoughts? Are you working on that beard wax? I think you and Carl need to work on like the handlebar mustache or something for the draft. Just don't say anything. Just show up.
I just trimmed it the other day, so it's not long enough to actually do that. I did have it long enough that I could I know this is gross, but I could put it in my mouth and chew on a little bit. So I could have actually probably gotten the handlebar there, but no, it's horrible. I'm a terrible human being, but no, I'm excited for Thursday. This year, like I've said before, was the most work I've ever put into an NFL draft. 183 players on my big board this year, which is just insane. So really excited for Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Can't wait to see everybody there.
And Carl, building the Broncos, we gave our platform today. Luckily, these guys don't know, but we get all the finances. So thank you guys very much. But actually, we'll give some to Lance because he's rocking the hat there. But final thoughts, Carl.
Yeah, no, always, like I said, this is always a fun episode to do. I think the Broncos did a great job getting actual value. Last couple of years always seems like the great players went like 2 picks before the Broncos picked, and it just was hard to do. So this year I felt like the players fell really well. And if that's how it falls for the Broncos come Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'm going to feel pretty good about this team, even if it is only 5 picks. I think those are good role players for the Broncos. Maybe not any superstars, but some good role players for them.
Well, the Broncos spent big in free agency, so they don't have to walk away with superstars in this draft. But thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Todd asks, the Broncos draft Mims and Chardonnay with the first 2 picks. How would you feel? Meh on the Charbonnet one, but solid on the Mims one. So Todd asked that a few times. I wanted to make sure I got to it. I see you, Todd. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Like I always like to close the other shows, make sure you continue to choose kindness and compassion. Buck 'em. Go Broncos.